As many Maldivians will tell you, the capital Male is so compact that everybody knows everybody. One of the most striking things about party politics here is the close connections between those on both sides of the fence. For instance, President Gayoom attended the same Egyptian school as political cartoonist Ahmed Abbas. Abbas was once close friends with Commissioner of Police Adam Zahir. And Foreign Minister Dr. Shahid is the brother-in-law of opposition MP Maria Didi.
Is there potentially a situation where it is like a family feud over how to bring democracy to this country that runs danger of leaving the people behind?
I wouldn't imagine so. I think people's aspirations are the same. People want to see a more free society, equitable distribution of wealth. And if you aren't able to deliver this, like even if you're in the government, if you're just reform-minded and not able to deliver, then you will be left behind, not the people.
Yet there are signs that parts of the population have given up on the politicking between the MDP and government elite. And this has enabled the emergence of a third force in the politics of this 100% Muslim nation, a more conservative Islam. It is especially strong on the poorer islands.
As freedom of expression increases, so does the religious people who are able to express their views on religion as well. And the more they express such religious views, the more people are becoming aware and more people are becoming more religiously aware and getting into religion more.
What happens in this country is that although we say this is an Islamic country, the government controls religion. I myself was imprisoned. I was at home, and one day they called me to the police station. They asked me, "Why have you got a beard? Why have you shortened your trousers?" No other questions. They just put me in jail, there and then.
He was also taken to jail.
While the Maldives enforce Islamic laws like a ban on alcohol, the government also forbids what it sees as more extreme expressions of Islam.
There is a law that women are not allowed to wear the dress that only shows the eyes.
Yes, because that conceals their character. You don't know who you are talking to, who you are dealing with. So their face should be seen. That is even in Islam, even during the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, women used to have bare faces. I mean, women were not, they did not cover their faces. So it's not Islamic to cover your face.
I think what's happening is, people have gone to different countries, different Islamic countries and studied. The dresses, if you notice, people wear in different Islamic countries are different. And those who've gone to Pakistan, they have embraced this dress and come back. The little veil that, or the scarf everybody's wearing now, I think it's about 4 or 5 years now that people have started putting this in general. So what you just saw, the lady in total black, that's also very new to the country.
We have heard from a number of government ministers that they are worried about the influence of foreign educated imams.
For me, the issue is not the clothes. For me, the issue is some of the attitudes that come with it, especially for women. Because for us in Maldives, we've never had an issue with gender discrimination based on religion.
Can you see a future in the Maldives where Islam-based parties are going to be running the government?
It could happen, but I hope not.
Secondary schools in the Maldives teach in English rather than in the indigenous language, Divehi. Yet, increasingly, parents are sending their children to schools like this one that teach in Arabic. Here, an additional first-grade class was added this year to cope with the growing demand. The largest of the Islamic parties, Adalat, promises to uphold traditional values whilst promoting social justice and democracy.
And do you think the lack of education provision, especially in the faraway islands, has been holding the Maldives back from achieving democracy?
Yes, and I think a lot hasn't been done in this area, in the faraway islands, in terms of educating the watching public their voting rights, what that could do to sort of re-empower or empower them as individuals at the grassroots level. That hasn't been done.
Is there a sense that people have lost faith in politicians and that they feel that religious people have more credibility?
Yes, public has lost a lot of faith in the politicians, and specifically in the transition period, a lot of the reformers have been sort of jumping their sides and taking different positions at different times. That little faith people sort of gained among the politicians seem to have lost in the process. But it's not so much that this is translated among the religious scholars, but everyone believes probably the religious scholars would have a better principle than the politicians.
Many people we've spoken to here, local people, Maldivans, are worried about what they call the emergence of radical Islam.
We also worry about the radical Islam because we are more about the present Islamic context of the Maldives. There's so much extremism in the islands as well, and we at some point had to go to this island and talk to these people about the middle ground, if you like, because we also are not like in so much in a fundamentalist extreme parties. We also kind of promote what's existing in the moderate context here.
Of course, what Adalat regard as moderate, others in the Maldives may see as extreme. Liberals here are concerned about the party's recent protests against both the inclusion of women in the judiciary and the proposed lifting of the ban on a female being head of state. As a party for social change, Adalat's key priority is the Maldives' enormous heroin problem. A recent UNICEF report estimates that on some islands over 50% of young people are using drugs. Ali Rashid is a journalist who knows Mali's drug scene well and feels the problem isn't just a social one.
Why do you say the government doesn't want to take on the drug trade for political reasons?
Well, let's say, for first and foremost in any country, the most dangerous segment of the society is the youth. And 2-3 generations of youth have been systematically destroyed, I would say, just so that the government can keep them out of politics.
So there's a lack of will to clean it up?
Not only there's a lack of will, there's a sort of motive on their part to maintain the status quo.
Here we meet again with Zia, the president's nephew.
Are you yourself a drugs user?
I'm a drug addict.
And you're addicted now?
To heroin.
Why do you think is there such a big drugs problem here in the Maldives?
Because the authorities or the government don't do anything practical enough to let the people come back into society, the addicts, the victims of this trade. These 40% of Maldivians youth is drug addicts, heroin users. We cannot identify with the government, nor can we identify with NDP. We're lost.
Do you think the government has made any concessions? Has anything been getting better at all?
That's for sure. Nothing's been better. Police beat a colleague, a brother of mine recently. He was found dead in the waterfront. They're saying nothing wrong, nobody beat him up, but everybody knows what's happened.
In an eerie repetition of the events that triggered the 2003 riots, the death of another drug user after his arrest this April has created the most recent unrest. Posting up pictures of his corpse has become a form of anonymous protest.
We've just been surrounded by a group of people who've taken us to see these photos here. And just now I'm looking around to interview somebody about it and everybody's disappeared.
On 12th of April, Hussein Salah was taken into detention in Malé on drugs charges. The police say they released him the day after his detention, but 2 days later his body was found floating in a harbour yards from the police station. The police say he died from drowning.
So the jail is just there?
Yeah.
How deep is this?
I'm not too sure actually, not very deep. I mean, there's never a time when there are waves crashing here either, but he would have gotten those injuries unless he tortured himself. And even if he'd fallen or committed suicide, like here there's CCTVs on the other end, on the other side there are TVs as well, so if he'd come along this road, they would have had footage as well.
According to the lawyer for Salah's family, Husnu al-Suud, any CCTV footage of the crucial nights seem to have disappeared. The police dispute the injuries to Salah's body, but fellow prisoners have given statements that they heard him being beaten and saw him, or his body, in the police station hours after he was said to have been released. After a contested autopsy, photos of Salah's corpse have become part of Maldivian politics.
And this position looks like he was still handcuffed at the time of death. And then he was thrown into the sea after actually he died.
So the presumption that you're working on is that rigor mortis set in whilst he was still in handcuffs, which is why the position of the hands didn't change in the water.
Yeah. So that's what the doctors say. I mean, I've spoken to some doctors and they said like that.
The police have their own interpretation of the photos.
Actually, the hand was up on the water surface level. Hand was gone up. Not that like this. It was gone up to the surface level.
It was because he was floating that his hands are in this position?
Like this, you see?
An independent autopsy in Sri Lanka found no evidence of police involvement in Hussein Salah's death, but for a lot of people there were too many unanswered questions and protests flared up once again. The legacy of distrust in the Maldives runs deep. It will be one of the key things to overcome for whoever takes power after the country's first promised elections in 2008.
I have been a democratic leader all the past 28 years, and I want to be known as one who has introduced a liberal democracy to the Maldives.
There should be a graceful transfer of power, and we are working on that. We should be able to achieve that. If we don't achieve that, we have also failed.
Whether the changes in the Maldives are felt to be too slow or too quick, or even only on paper, the crunch will come at the elections. It will take all groups to create a peaceful transition from the past which doesn't leave anyone behind.